Morning, everybody. I'm not going to wait for you guys to hop on because you'll watch as you can. Welcome to Seaside Quilting Supplies. My name is Barb. I own the shop. I've been in business on the internet since 2005. And we've been going through a series on Quilter stream batting and all the great fibers they have available as options for our quilting, crafting, and sewing projects all around our homes. I wanted to first address a little bit about why you might choose poly over cotton or cotton over poly. And really, in fact, it's a matter of total personal preference, but there are some factors to consider when making that choice. So before I talk about today's batting types, which I will do in just a minute, we're going to talk a little bit about poly versus cotton and some things to consider as you make a choice. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Supreme versus Deluxe and cotton, because we've already covered cotton batting, we've already done poly batting. And I wanted to just do a little bit on the Supreme and the Deluxe. In cotton, that's the only opportunity for you to get all four lofts. So a little bit about poly versus cotton to begin with. So first of all, everybody knows poly is a synthetic fiber. It's created. It's a created fiber that does, in fact, come from petroleum. That's true of all polyester, not just batting polyester. Polyester is the world's most popular synthetic fiber. So, you know, when they make knits and all kinds of stuff like that that have poly in them, it's the single most popular fiber. So, for cotton and polyester, if you're trying to decide which batting you want to use, they both are easy to manipulate, very soft, very supple. They will withstand heat, bleach, and detergents. You can also dye poly and cotton in almost any color, and we can use them everywhere. We can use them for seat cushions, we can use them for quilts, we can use them for tote bags. Either one will work in either of those applications. So, differences. Poly is, of course, a natural fiber. It comes from a cotton plant, of course. What did I just say? I think I said that wrong. Cotton is a natural fiber. It comes from, of course, the cotton plant. The long fibers are extruded and turned into these gorgeous long strings of cotton that make our beautiful battings. And, of course, polyester is man-made. Now, poly does have the ability to be stronger. So its fibers don't break as easily as cotton fibers. So it has a high stretch value and can withstand a lot more tugging and wear and tear than a cotton fiber will. Poly is also water resistant, so it's called hydrophobic. So it repels water away. And like a, hey Linda, and like a, if you made an article of clothing with polyester, you know it doesn't absorb our perspiration, our body perspiration. It just repels it back onto us because polyester is not absorbent at all. Cotton, however, is more breathable. So for example, polyester fibers in a batting, you can get some movement of air through the batting, of course, because it's not like packed, you know, it's not like totally solid. There is room for air to move through the product. But cotton fibers independently actually breathe. They absorb moisture. So there's a perception that cotton will help keep you cooler than poly. Hey, Mary. Another thing to consider is if you are an allergy prone person, most people can tolerate cotton fibers easier than poly fibers. So for example, I have some customers who have severe allergies to, for example, Scotch tape or any kind of packing tape, or, well, actually right now I don't have any customers, but I have had customers in the past who have written me and said, when they placed their order, and said, no, don't put any tape of any kind anywhere, because the poly in the tape they're very allergic to. So cotton is generally more hypoallergenic than the poly. Now, the poly is much more resistant to wrinkles. So, you know, if you're making a garment or something out of a fiber, you generally might want to use a poly if it's something you care about having to press all the time. Now, in batting, I don't feel that that is particularly a helpful selling point, because we layer it in a quilt sandwich. So I don't think wrinkling is quite as much of an issue as it may be if you're making garments. Polyester will tend to trap a little bit of heat because it just doesn't breathe quite as well as the cotton. Poly does dry quicker than cotton, though. Because cotton absorbs moisture, it takes a little bit longer to dry all the way through the fibers. So polyester tends to be a quicker drying when it gets wet and you have to dry it. It does dry quicker than cotton. What else do I want to tell you? So obviously 100% cotton anything, 100% cotton t-shirt, 100% cotton batting, 100% cotton quilt will have a little bit of shrinkage, just because that's the natural reaction of cotton when it meets water, is to contract a little bit. Poly will not shrink. However, even though poly is not as breathable as cotton, the polyester fibers do have the ability to absorb odors around them, and they're a little bit harder to get out of poly. So you may just want to, keep that in mind as you're making your choices. So poly fibers tend to be a little bit lighter in weight than cotton. Poly fibers don't wrinkle. Poly fibers are stronger. Cotton fibers are more breathable. They're easier on your skin if you have allergies. They help air move through things, which keeps you cooler. So all of that to say that really there is not a technical reason to choose one over the other. It is, in fact, a matter of personal preference. Now, I will say that, for example, if you're making tote bags, so when I make my grocery bags, I use our good cotton fabrics on the outside. When I make those, I do tend to use either the very heavy Supreme batting, or I use a poly, like Poly Deluxe, because the Supreme batting is so dense that it makes the bag really strong. Or if I just happen to grab a Poly Deluxe, that's a super strong batting as well. And I don't care so much about breathability in a tote bag, but the Poly Deluxe, for example, will give you a really nice, strong grocery bag. I don't know about y'all, but I put as much stuff in a grocery bag as I possibly can. I'm one of those crazy people that will make one trip with bags everywhere rather than go back to the car 4 or 5 times. John's always yelling at me about it. So both fibers, cotton and poly, have applications depending on the project. One is not necessarily better than the other. They're just different. And, the quilting police used to say if you have cotton fabrics, you have to have cotton in the batting. So I'm going to answer you in just a minute. That's just not true. That is like an old wives' tale. It's just simply not true. Now, the one caveat to that is, if you're buying our expensive, high quality quilt shop only cottons, and you go to the box store and you get one of those very inexpensive poly battings, I promise you, I've personally experienced this more than once. They have sharp little teeny things sticking all in them. They're not soft, they're not supple. They will degrade your quilt from the inside out. And I was so grateful that yesterday Mary Ann made a little post about Bart being right about quilt shop only versus big box stores items, because I know you guys think I tell you that just to sell you stuff, and I promise you I don't. There are things even I go get at the box stores, but there are things I would not buy there. Batting is one of them, and fabric. Most fabric for almost all purposes is one of them. If I were making, I don't know, I don't know what it could possibly be that I might need something. I have bought fabric there. I don't do it for quilts. I don't do it for tote bags. I just generally don't do it. But don't degrade your beautiful quilts or wall hangings or even your tote bags, maybe especially your tote bags, because our tote bags take such a beating, you know, loading stuff in and out of them, making them heavy. You do stand a chance of really degrading your lining of your tote bag if you put one of those crunchy, sharp, cheap battings in a tote bag. I promise you. I know you don't believe me sometimes. I promise you it's true. Save your money, get the best batting you can buy, in my opinion, which is Quilters Dream. Okay, Sue. Sue, that's a hard question to answer a little bit because, Sue Furbish, that is. So poly will retain more heat. So it will not allow the air to move through it as quickly as cotton does. So poly may make you feel warmer. For me personally, because I'm very, very hot-natured, poly is too hot for me in a quilt. I just would not want poly in a quilt. I'm just too hot-natured. However, if you go to one of the heavier cottons, which is what we're going to address real quick next before I move on to the two really lofty products I want to talk to you about today. If you move on to one of the super heavy cottons like the Deluxe or the Supreme, you'll get a whole lot of warmth because they're very, very densely woven, very, very heavy cottons. So I think, Sue, it's going to be a matter, a little bit of personal preference. Like if you can wear polyester clothing and not be too hot, you'll probably be fine with poly in your batting. But if you're very, very, very hot-natured, you probably are going to want to use a cotton so that it moves the air a little bit better. Sue Furbish, I don't know if that helps or not, but that's, again, it's a little teeny bit of personal preference, and it depends on which, you know, which sort of body temperature nature you are yourself. So, let me see what else I want to tell you. I will say that some of the one of the items we're going to talk about today, which is Dream Puff, has actually been tested and proven to be 1.5 times warmer than even down. Now, down is a different product, so it's not like a woven cotton fiber, but so you know, I think generally you could say that the polys will be slightly warmer than the cotton will, because the cotton breathes. Okay, now I'm going to talk to you guys about, sure, Sue, I'm sorry I couldn't be more definitive, but I don't want to mislead you into thinking one is technically like way warmer. So, all right, we're going to talk about a couple things. I just want to remind you guys, all my faithful live viewers, hanging behind me is some gorgeous Luxe Cuddle. This is coral. This is bellflower. Tonight on Sip and Shop, we're going to have flannels, cuddles, and backings at crazy prices, you guys. You got to hop on. You got to tell your friends to come and shop with us tonight. I'm going to do a bamboo batting sale. Only bamboo, just one fiber tonight on sale. And I'll pull some threads and stuff to go with some of our beautiful flannels and backings. And so we're going to have a fun Sip and Shop tonight. And Mary might even make an appearance. All right, let's talk about these two, the other two fibers I wanted to talk to you guys about today. And I think I'm going to need to, well, I think you can see the difference. Okay, so in Quilters Dream Cotton, which we covered in, I don't know, sessions 2 and 3 or 1 and 2, I don't know. Go back and watch on YouTube. They're all there. We talked about the fact that Quilters Dream Cotton, which is 100% grade A U.S. cotton, manufactured right here in Virginia, not too far from me. I mean, a few hours drive, but a fabulous made in the USA company. In cotton, they carry 4 lofts. So Request and Select, which we spent a good bit of time on. So that's the low loft and the mid loft. And in cotton, you can also choose from Deluxe and Supreme. Cotton is the only fiber where you have 4 options for weight and loft. So I didn't talk about Deluxe and Supreme when we were doing cotton, and I wanted to just go over those. So Deluxe is the 3rd loft in Quilters Dream Cotton. So request, select, Deluxe. So when you cross over from Select to Deluxe, you will notice a marked difference in the weight and the density of the batting. It's a great way to add some definition to your quilting because the product is so dense, so nice and heavy. The Deluxe, if you really want to show off a quilt, but you don't quite want to go all the way with the weight, grab a Deluxe crib and try one. You'll be stunned at how it accentuates your quilting. You really will. So if you don't want to quite go the furthest you can go with the weight and the density, grab a Deluxe and see what you think about that for a great definition batting for your quilting. And if you live anywhere in the, that top third of the country where it's really, really cold in the winter, like it's hardly ever really, really cold here in Virginia. Certainly as hot-natured as I am, not cold enough for me to, I don't even want one of those weighted blankets, you guys, because it's just too hot. All right, so if you live, hey Lynn, if you live in one of those top tier of the country states, though, where it gets brutally cold, certainly people appreciate the heft and the warmth of these top tier. By top tier, I mean density and loft, not quality. Weighted batting. So Deluxe is the 3rd loft, Supreme is the 4th. So I'm going to show you these side by side, and I hope the glare from the plastic won't ruin them because I don't want to cut them open. Although I couldn't. Here, I can, and I'll tape them back down just so you can see them without the glare of the camera. Let me see if I can. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I wanted you to see and I want to grab a request. I hope I have one down here. Do I have one down here? I do. Well, I don't know if I do or not. All right, so this is Supreme. All right. So these are Supreme and Deluxe battings. So this, I'm going to show you this one first. This is a Deluxe crib size batting. And it's going to be really hard for me to show you guys this. Let me see if we can do this. So there is the thickness of the beautiful Deluxe batting. And you can see in just a crib size what a lofty batting this is. It's a real dense, just a beautiful cotton batting. This is Deluxe. Deluxe will always have its little lavender label. Don't forget, that's a good way for you to tell if you're getting a real Quilters Dream batting if you're shopping at that other store online, that big one with the brown boxes. Be sure you're getting the real thing. The Deluxe label will be lavender. The Supreme label is cream. So here's a Supreme batting. And look how thick that crib size is. So this batting is Supreme. This batting is Deluxe. So these are just crib sizes, you guys. So these are just 60 inches by 46 inches, and you can see how big and thick they are. Really weighty. In the cold parts of the country, you're going to really appreciate these lofts. So not only do they give you added warmth, they give you, I'm messing up my packages here. They give you great definition in your quilting. So if you're making a quilt and you really want your quilting to stand out, get one of these. Also, if you're doing tote bags and you want added strength, grab a Supreme. They quilt beautifully, you guys. They're not any harder to quilt on than the cotton. You can stitch them up to 8 inches apart. As with everything else, please do not pre-wash. That is absolutely not recommended by Quilter's Dream. Their battings are super, super clean, and they have only the tiniest bit of shrinkage, like 1 to 3%. So not very much shrinkage at all, even in the cottons. All right, so don't forget Deluxe and Supreme. And don't also forget that those terms, Deluxe and Supreme, do not mean one batting is better than the other. They are simply a reference to the density, the weight, and the loft of the batting. Okay, so that's cotton. And I wanted to move on today to two other products that are unique in Quilter's Dream lineup. In that they are very, very puffy, and there is only one loft available, and they are equivalent to the Select loft in their weight ish. It's really even hard to put a category on them. So you can't get like Request, Select, Deluxe, Supreme in the 2 fibers we're going to look at today. So today we're going to talk about Dream Puff. It is exceptionally light batting. I have customers who only quilt with puff. It is a poly batting. It has 1/3 of an inch loft, so really a nice puffy batting, so that you'll get a lot of definition in your quilting without a lot of weight. So if you want a lightweight but defined batting for your quilt, you might want to try a puff. Puff is polyester, don't forget, is 100% polyester. You can stitch up to 10 inches apart, so you can space your quilting out. It does not crease or wrinkle. You can machine wash and dry it. It will not shrink. Okay, so puff is 1.5 times warmer than down. It is almost twice as warm, 2 times as warm as, for example, a Poly Deluxe. So the puff fibers are 100% super fine. It's called denier poly. They're very, very, very finely extruded polyester fibers that almost look like silk, and it gives a really light, airy batting. So you get volume and you get definition without adding weight. Lots of people who want really, really puffy quilts will double their puff for their projects. So puff is also great for trapunto and even faux trapunto quilting. So 10 inches apart. Oh yeah, if you're tying a quilt, puff is fabulous for tied quilts. Oh, also sleeping bags and all kinds of crafts. Puff is a great batting to use in that process. So no, Missy, puff is puffy. Puff is thick, not heavy, but thicker. No. So this is, for example, a puff crib. I just showed you what some cotton cribs. See how thick this is? These fibers are very light and puffy, and they really do give you a lot of volume without the weight. So Quilter's Dream, their fibers, they are able to not use any chemical binders, is they are thermally binded. So their fibers are interwoven because they're exposed to extreme heat. So there are no chemical resins, binders, scrim, any of that in Quilter's Dream products. So it's a thermal process that actually softens the fiber a little bit. And then at the melting point, the fibers meet each other again and they form really, really strong bonds. So when the whole thing is cooled, it makes for a really strong yet lightweight batting. So this is a puff crib, and I put the other one down, but you can see how thick, how light and fluffy that is. So if you want warmth, and because the fibers are so light and airy, you will get a little more breathability than you do in a denser poly. But also it will keep you very, very warm. So that's Dream Puff. So if you want a lot of volume, a lot of definition for your quilting with not a lot of added weight, give Puff a try. Remember, you can stitch it up to 10 inches apart. Its loft is 1/3 to 1/2 inch. So depending on how the roll comes off, it can be 1/3 of an inch thick or 1/2 inch thick sometimes. And don't forget, you can double your puff up if you really want definition. Also, you can hand quilt it. Absolutely can be machine washed and dried on cool temperatures. Also, and available in rolls of lots of sizes. So if you're a long armor and you need a roll, let me know. I'll get you one. Okay, that's Quilter's Dream Puff. It has the bright blue label with the lime green words. That's how you know you're getting a real Quilter's Dream batting. So don't forget that. And the last item we're going to talk about, because it's only in the one loft, is the Quilter's Dream Wool. So if you're looking for, I'm trying to let you see the package. There's the Dream Wool. So Dream Wool is a beautiful, beautiful fiber. It's made with domestic and merino wools. They're called long top cuts. So some of the most beautiful cuts out there of wool. It is a beautifully consistent batting. It is scoured and super washed. So that's the reason you don't have to pre-wash your battings from Quilter's Dream. I don't know about the rest of them, but from Quilter's Dream, we encourage you not to wash your battings. They are scoured and thoroughly pre-washed so that you get a really, really super clean item. That also helps reduce the felting. You know, felting is when it gets that little fuzzy kind of top on it. And in fact, there are felted wools for specific projects. But the cleaning and the scouring at Quilter's Dream helps reduce the felting in the batting. So, it has a loft of 1/3 of an inch or more. It's like on the heavy side of 1/3 of an inch thick. So really a lofty, great batting. You can machine wash and dry on cold with no shrinkage. Don't put your wool battings though near your iron, or stay away from heat on your wool batting. You can stitch wool up to 8 inches apart. It is absolutely beautiful to quilt. Again, no scrim, no resins in Quilter's Dream batting. Thermally bonded again. What else do I want to tell you about this? It's the color of natural wool, so it is like a creamy off-white yellow color. People also double up their wool battings for great loft and definition in their quilting. So if you're looking for a natural fiber, this is a great, if you want the definition of the puff, but you would prefer a natural fiber, this is the one you want. This is Quilter's Dream beautiful wool. It has a beautiful turquoise background, got some little sheep on it. So be sure, if you're not buying from me, which I hope you are, that you're checking your labels, especially if you're shopping online from someone who is not a quilt shop only shop, because Quilter's Dream only sells to independent quilt shops. So, and yes, there are some independent shops that do business on that big place that we all order from, but you do need to double check. So just look for label colors, and if you're confused, go to the Quilter's Dream website and you can check a label color. If you're going to shop with somebody else, you know, maybe not ask me how to tell if your batting is the real thing or not. All right, so that's puff and wool. So puff and wool are one loft, nice puffy definition without weight. And don't forget, we talked about Deluxe and Supreme in cotton. So you can go back and watch that if you need to. And we talked about poly versus cotton and how you would choose. So that's Dream Wool and Dream Puff. So they are like the Cadillac of loft and definition. If you want big and puffy, double them up. They quilt beautifully. You won't have a bit of trouble on your home machine. I have used all of these battings on my little Pfaff, who is almost 17 years old now, and she just sews right through them like a champ. All right, so Marion, real quickly. Marion, I always encourage people when doing placemats, because who wants a placemat that's really puffy that you don't want to sit your glass on or a lovely teacup on or anything? I always encourage people to use just a request loft in placemats. If it's truly going to be just a decorative placemat that you're going to take off, you know, before you set the table or whatever, and you want something real pretty with definition, then get yourself a piece of Deluxe and you'll have a lot of definition if you're going to quilt your little placemats, which, by the way, is a great way to practice your quilting skills, you guys, on your placemats. Don't forget that. If you want to practice your free motion quilting, do some small projects. Do a little set of placemats and quilt them on your machine. You won't have any trouble with space or you know, having to roll up one end under your arm, which is how you do a big quilt on a little machine. But I would use a request loft, Marion, and I don't think it would matter if it was poly or cotton in a placemat at all. So you could certainly try a poly request little batting. Out of a crib size batting, I think you can get, like, John did this for me once. I think you can get like 8 placemats out of a crib size poly, a crib size batting. They're 60 by 46 inches. I think he figured out. Yeah, I think it's like 8 placemats out of a crib size batting, you guys. Unless they're gigantic placemats. But, so I would try something in the request loft, Marion. So that would mean you'd either get cotton or poly. Yeah, and I don't think it would matter either way which one. So as I move forward with my Quilter's Dream tutorials, the next products we're going to talk about are all fiber blends. So that's why I wanted to get the single fiber items kind of out of the way first. So as we go forward, my next talk will be about either machine blend or 80-20 blend or bamboo. Of course, I'm going to do a whole segment on bamboo. I'll probably talk about the Dream Green by itself too, you guys, because that's another poly product that is made from recycled green plastic soda bottles, and it is as soft as any of the other polys. It is a beautiful product. A great way to try a poly if you're interested in that. We'll do a day on green. And there's also black poly. I talked to you about that the other day, I think. So the next few lessons will be on the blended fibers from Quilter's Dream. And you will see us tonight at Thursday Sip and Shop at 7 p.m. Eastern. I think Mary might even be here, or maybe not. I'm trying to send her home. She doesn't need to help. She doesn't need to do that. So, all right, you guys. So I'm going to sign off now and get ready, get some work done around here for today. Don't forget these beautiful. These are the Luxe Cuddles. This is coral. Isn't this gorgeous? And this color is Bellflower. Yum. Oh. And we're going to do a crazy good price for you tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. Share that information with your friends. Bring them along. We're always looking to meet new people on our lives. And I'll see you soon. Go sow some love and spread it around.